ever found yourself wondering about that suspiciously low-priced designer bag you spotted online? Or maybe those earbuds that look just like the real deal but cost, a fraction?
Happens all the time, Wayne.
Exactly. Well, what if I told you that behind these things, there's this immense sort of shadowy global economy? It's pulling in hundreds of billions of dollars every year, basically hiding in plain sight.
Hmm.
So today we're pulling back the curtain. We're doing a deep dive into the fascinating, complex, and sometimes honestly absurd world of the global counterfeit industry. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, let's do it.
Our mission here is to uncover just how huge this thing is, where these products actually come from, how they're sold through these really sophisticated networks, and what it tells us about global trade, maybe even geopolitics.
And that's crucial because it's not just about, a few fake handbags here and there. We're talking about a massive, highly sophisticated parallel economy. It seriously impacts global markets, consumer trust, legitimate businesses, everything.
Mm.
And what's fascinating is how it adapts, how it innovates constantly to deal with enforcement and demand.
Yeah.
You might be genuinely surprised by who the main players are, their strategies, and why this shadow economy really matters to the bigger picture of global power.
Okay, so let's try and grasp a scale first because the numbers are, well, they're pretty staggering. Globally, this counterfeit market is estimated to be worth around $500 billion a year.
500 billion. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's bigger than the entire economy of quite a few countries. But here's where it gets really interesting. When you look at where most of it comes from, one country just dominates, China.
Mm-hmm.
China accounts for something like 50% of the world's total counterfeit production, half of it.
Half. That's incredible.
So China's fake goods economy on its own is pulling in an estimated $250 billion every single year.
Okay, 250 billion.
Think about that. Just for comparison, Apple's global revenue is around, what, $380 billion?
Right, roughly.
So the income from just Chinese fakes is about 2/3 of what Apple makes worldwide. It's colossal. It's not pocket change.
Not at all. It's a major economic force, even if it's underground.
And China's the big one, but India is also a huge player, contributing maybe 20-30%. So between them, you're looking at maybe 80% of the global total.
80% from just two countries.
Yeah, and these stats, they're probably on the low side.
Mm.
Because it's also hidden, the real numbers could be even higher.
Which is kind of mind-blowing.
It really is. And you might think, okay, $500 billion. That's got to be all Rolexes and Louis Vuitton bags, right? Luxury stuff.
That's the common idea, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's much broader than that. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this whole fake goods economy goes way beyond high-end fashion.
Like what?
Oh, everyday things. Stationery, electronic components, sometimes critical ones, car parts, medicines, even kids' toys like Lego. You can find incredibly high-quality fakes of almost anything.
Lego? Seriously. And in China, this informal economy, it's not just, some side hustle. It's actually a pretty significant contributor, unofficially, to their overall economic strength. It shows this amazing agility in manufacturing and distribution.
Same skills they use for legit stuff.
Exactly. The ability to replicate quickly, adapt, distribute. It works for both legal and illegal goods.
Yes.
It's like this massive, unregulated R&D and manufacturing hub ready to jump on any demand.
Wow. Okay, so if there's one place that's like the epicenter of this.
Yeah.
You mentioned Guangzhou, right?
Absolutely. If any city deserves the title world's counterfeit capital, it's probably Guangzhou.
What's it like there?
It's surreal. I mean, you can literally hop in a taxi, ask the driver, hey, where do I find the good fakes? And they'll take you straight to places like Xingxi Street. No hesitation.
Seriously, they just tell you.
Yep. And the really ironic part, everywhere you look, there are these big official-looking signs, strictly crack down on piracy.
Yep. Yeah. It's like putting up a no smoking sign right next to the designated smoking area. It basically just points foreigners right to where the action is.
That's wild. So who's buying this stuff, mainly?
Well, walking around those areas, you see a lot of international buyers, especially folks from the Middle East, Africa. Many are actually students.
Students. Buying for themselves.
Some, maybe. But a lot of them are buying in bulk. They take it back home, sell it to friends, family, maybe run a little side business. It's how they make ends meet.
Huh. And what about the fakes themselves? Are they obvious?
On the street level, yeah, you find the really obvious ones, the very fake stuff. A Rolex with a lowercase L, or Dior spelled D-O-I-R.
Right, the classic terrible fakes.
Exactly. Those sell for maybe 1/10% of the real price.
Ugh.
But even there, you can find, like, Surprisingly decent fake Nike Dunks for just 60 RMB. That's like, what, under 10 US dollars?
Wow, that's cheap.
Incredibly cheap. It shows how low they can get the production costs.
But you mentioned different grades, right? It's not all just those obvious ones.
No, definitely not. That's where it gets more complex. There are basically three grades. You've got the very fake on the street. Then there's a middle tier, ones with small flaws.
Okay, what kind of flaws?
Tiny things. You need to look really closely. Maybe a stitch is slightly off, or the metal hardware color isn't quite right, or a logo has a tiny imperfection like a jagged edge instead of smooth.
Stuff most people wouldn't notice.
Probably not at first glance. And this is where you meet the Lingleren, the lead person or guide.
Ah, the gatekeeper.
Exactly. They're testing you. They'll show you these second-grade fakes. If you can spot the flaws, if you know what you're looking for,
Then you pass the test.
then you're deemed shiwo. It means you're knowledgeable. You know the goods. Only then, once you've proven you're discerning and serious, will they consider taking you to the real top-tier stuff.
So it's like a secret society initiation.
Sort of. It filters out the casual tourists from the serious buyers, protects the sellers of the best fakes. It's all about managing risk and reputation in this hidden market. This raises an important question, though.
Yeah.
How does this tiered system, this secrecy, actually function day to day?
Yeah.
How does it let them cater to everyone from tourists looking for cheap souvenirs to serious resellers demanding near-perfect copies?
Right. And once you pass that Shiwar test, where do they take you for the really good stuff, the super A grade?
Well, first off, you never find that level of quality sold openly on the street, ever.
Okay.
For the best luxury fakes, like those impossible-to-tell LV bags, a major hub is a place called White Cloud Leather City. But just knowing the name isn't enough. Getting into the actual shops, these hidden mysterious shops, is a whole process.
Like what? Security checks?
Oh, yeah. Heavy checkpoints. First, they'll check you for any cameras, recording devices. They're super paranoid about being exposed.
Makes sense.
Then, identity verification. If you're, say, from Taiwan, they might ask for your passport, your Taiwan travel permit, maybe even your flight stub to prove you're just visiting.
Wow, okay. Intense.
It gets deeper. They might hit you with a kind of local knowledge test, ask you about specific city districts, or maybe something obscure about the airport.
Things only a local or a frequent visitor would know.
Exactly. Or they might even check your phone, see if you have non-Chinese apps like Line or Facebook or Instagram. It's all part of building this profile of a serious, vetted, trustworthy buyer.
It sounds less like shopping and more like, I don't know, entering speakeasy or something.
That's actually a pretty good analogy. The secrecy, the vetting, it feels very clandestine.
And the quality of these super A-grade fakes, what do the sellers say?
They're incredibly confident. You'll hear things like, here there are no goods the original factory didn't make, basically claiming it's indistinguishable. Or, unless you take this to a professional appraiser, no ordinary person can tell the difference.
And do people believe them?
Apparently, yes. Anecdotally, you hear stories about wealthy customers, madams, coming in carrying their genuine designer bags, specifically to compare and buy the fakes, because they're that close.
That's just incredible. But it's not just bags and watches, right? You mentioned electronics, too.
Right. That's a whole different world, centered mainly in Shenzhen, specifically the Huakangbei market. That place has been legendary for electronic counterfeits for decades.
Huakangbei. Okay. What kind of stuff comes out of there?
Think high-tech fakes that are incredibly sophisticated. The classic example is AirPods.
Fake AirPods. How good can they be?
Scary good. We're talking fakes that mimic almost everything. The pop-up connection alert when you open the case near your iPhone. Active noise cancellation that actually works. Even AirPlay audio streaming.
No way.
They boast about using Huakangbei's most awesome chips.
Yeah.
They basically reverse-engineered or maybe even sourced through back channels the tech needed to replicate the core functionalities.
So you've got Guangzhou for luxury, Shenzhen for tech. It's specialized.
Exactly. It shows this highly organized, distributed network. Each region leverages its specific strengths. It's fascinating how it mirrors, and sometimes even pioneers, techniques used in legitimate supply chains.
Okay, so this whole system was humming along, incredibly sophisticated, and then COVID hit. What did that do?
It threw a massive wrench in the works, especially for the parts reliant on tourism. International tourist numbers in China just plummeted.
Right, you said from like 157 million down to maybe 30% of that?
Yeah, a huge drop. And since so many buyers, particularly for the Guangzhou stuff, were foreigners visiting the country, that whole channel basically dried up overnight.
So what did the manufacturers do? They couldn't just stop.
No way. They had to adapt. They started, as they say, turning their cunning brains to find new overseas markets, new routes out.
And where did they look?
Guangxi province suddenly became much more important.
Guangxi. Why there?
Well, partly because enforcement seemed a bit more relaxed, maybe.
Mhm.
You started seeing low-end fakes sold pretty openly in night markets in cities like Nanning. But the key thing is geography.
Geography.
Yeah, Guangxi shares a long border with Vietnam. That gives them a direct overland route for getting goods out of China without relying on ports or airports that were heavily restricted.
Ah, smuggling became the main option.
Pretty much. It was a pivot forced by the pandemic.
So how does that work, getting stuff across the border to Vietnam?
A key spot is Dung Sing Port. It's a major land crossing between China and Vietnam. It was shut down in 2020, like most crossings, and only fully reopened in 2023.
Must have been chaos when it reopened.
Yeah, big backlog, then a surge. And Dung Sing officially handles mostly small daily necessities. That kind of classification makes it easier, ironically, to slip other things through.
Like what?
Well, alongside legit stuff, you get smuggled cigarettes, alcohol, seafood, farm products, even wild animals sometimes. And of course, lots and lots of counterfeit goods heading south.
What's it like actually crossing there?
It's apparently quite an experience, even for regular travelers. Kind of inefficient, lots of stairs, 2 different international security checks.
Sounds fun.
Right. And this inefficiency creates opportunities for the informal economy. You see, like Vietnamese aunties who will offer to carry your luggage across for 10 RMB. They'll also offer currency exchange on the spot.
So the border itself is a whole ecosystem.
Exactly. It blurs the lines. And it highlights how adaptable this whole counterfeit industry is. One channel closes tourism, so another opens up, leveraging geography and these existing informal border networks.
Okay, so the goods get smuggled across the border into Vietnam. Then what? Where do they end up?
They often surface in markets in Vietnamese border cities like Mong Khai or further inland in Hanoi. These places are now described as having some of the most rampant counterfeit markets,
How do they operate there openly?
often disguised. Shops might look like regular boutiques trying to mimic legit stores, but inside they're packed with fakes.
What kind of fakes? The super A-grade stuff?
Generally not. It's mostly the lower-end stuff, the kind of fakes that, frankly, Chinese consumers might turn their noses up at. The very fakes.
But they sell well in Vietnam.
Apparently, yes. They're described as very popular. There's strong local demand. You know, a fake bag might go for 500,000 Vietnamese dong.
Which is still a decent amount there.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
even the lowest tier finds a profitable market. It shows the reach and segmentation of the industry.
So we've seen the scale, the hubs, the adaptability. How does this all fit into the bigger picture, maybe geopolitically?
That's a really interesting question. If you zoom out, this massive adaptive counterfeit economy, even though it's technically illegal, kind of aligns with this concept of China as a new upstart power.
An upstart power, what does that mean?
It's an idea folks like Oriana Schuyler Mastro talk about. The theory is that a rising power like China doesn't always try to just overthrow the existing global system, like international trade rules or intellectual property laws.
Okay.
Instead, it often focuses on imitating how the system works, learning the rules, while also actively utilizing or maybe exploiting the gaps, the loopholes, the ambiguities within that same system to gain advantage and build influence.
So learning the game and playing it smartly, even using the gray areas.
Kind of. It's about operating within the established framework, but finding clever ways to work around its limitations or enforcement weaknesses. The counterfeit industry, in a way, is a massive example of that.
How so?
Well, the huge profits from this informal economy undoubtedly boost China's overall economic strength, and it creates these incredibly tangled global supply chains, both formal and informal, making it really hard for other countries to just decouple economically. Everyone's kind of tied in.
Right. But what about the government? You mentioned the crackdown on piracy signs. Why have those if the industry is thriving and maybe even beneficial in some ways?
That's the paradox, isn't it? It suggests a very complex dance. There's the official policy cracking down, respecting IP, at least on paper, but then there's the reality on the ground, where local economies might quietly benefit from the jobs and activity generated by these industries.
So maybe looking the other way sometimes.
It could be seen as a nuanced strategy. Maybe not full suppression, but managing it, allowing some level of activity while maintaining official deniability. It's complex.
So what does this all mean then? We've got this global powerhouse that officially condemns counterfeiting, but also seems to benefit from this enormous shadow industry that kind of mirrors its larger strategies.
That's pretty much. It's a massive
It
paradox.
really makes you think differently about seeing a super cheap designer item, doesn't it? It's not just a simple bargain.
Not at all.
We've peeled back the layers here on a truly global thing, from the secret shops in Guangzhou across the border to Vietnam, and how it all links back to China's unique economic journey as this upstart power.
Yeah.
So what does this all mean? I guess it means the counterfeit world is way more sophisticated, way more impactful, and maybe more strategically important than most of us ever realize.
Absolutely. This journey really forces you to think about how global commerce actually works,
Yeah.
both the official version and the hidden version running underneath.
Yeah.
It challenges how we think about the cost and value of things, especially when everything's so connected globally. And it shows this fascinating tension between formal rules and informal economies and how nations navigate that space.
Yeah, it's definitely not black and white.
Not even close. It reminds us that what looks like simple copying is often part of a highly organized, incredibly adaptive, and economically powerful global force.
So maybe next time you see a deal that looks way too good to be true, pause for a second. Ask yourself, is this just a cheap knockoff? Or are you maybe seeing a tiny piece of this multi-billion-dollar upstart empire in action? Still innovating, still adapting, still shaping global trade in ways we're only just starting to get our heads around.
A powerful thought.
Keep those deep dive questions coming, everyone. We'll keep digging into the forces shaping our world.